So this article is entitled, this is from space.com, everybody. I love how they just, I wonder what they bought that domain name for. Like, who was the guy, like, in 1991 who was like, you know, when everybody was buying these .com domain sites for, like, you know, a couple bucks? Who was the guy who, like, purchased space.com? I wonder how much he made on that. Probably just slightly less than the guy who purchased, you know, sex.com or, like, you know, bigtitties.com. I'm sure space.com was kind of up there. One of the more profitable domain sales. Anyway, some people know what I'm talking about. This article is entitled, "You'll travel nearly 1 trillion miles in your lifetime, even if you never leave your home. Here's how." Did you know that, guys? That even if you're just like, I don't know, a hermit, kind of like yours truly, me, Zetetic Warrior, and you don't ever really leave like your home or your local area, hey, no matter, you're still going to travel nearly 1 trillion miles. Take that. How, you ask? Well, of course, space.com is going to tell you guys, silly. Let's continue. Whether you're a frequent jet setter or a couch potato, you travel much more than you think. In fact, that would be true even if you were to stay perfectly motionless your entire life. So far on average... So how far on average does a person travel in their lifetime? The answer depends on whether you consider Earth as your vehicle. Well, apparently you, hashtag academia and hashtag science, consider Earth a vehicle. So then let's continue. As for distance on Earth's surface, the typical human will travel 30,000 to 50,000 miles in their lifetime, though some globe-trotters will go much further. Considering most people accumulate the majority of this mileage from commutes and quick errands, that's an impressively large difference, enough to circumnavigate the globe at least once. So see how they warm you up in the article? And I always like to point this out with these articles. It's not just about the information, but it's also about the presentation of the information. Anybody who studies NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, you may see the subtleties in here. The emotional content, the humor that they put in here, the cadence that they use, and the particular process they use to bring you into the article. It's subtle, but it's there. Let's continue. But as large as it is, that number pales in comparison to the motion we get simply by hitching a ride on Earth. Here we go, guys. And I want you to notice the slippery way in which they present their propaganda. Start to look at the logical fallacies in this presentation. There's no way I'm going to be able to point all of them because they're quite numerous. Let's continue. Our planet spins on its axis, and because Earth is mostly solid, it rotates as a single rigid body, meaning that everywhere on planet experiences the same angular speed, and everyone travels a full circle every 24 hours. I want you to notice how they do this. They say we experience the same angular speed, but that's not linear speed. That's angular speed, which, again, is quite slippery. But guess who sees through it? Yeah, yours truly, me. I don't know. I'll continue. But if you were to stand on the North and South geographic poles, you wouldn't actually travel anywhere. So how's their angular speed there too? Slippery, huh? Anyway, you would just spin round and round. Those on the equator, however, get a tremendous amount of linear speed thanks to this rotation, roughly 1,000 miles per hour. We always say that. You're so on the supposed equator, you're traveling, your linear speed is 1,000 miles an hour, which is easy math, guys. I want you to really think about this. They say the world is 24,901 miles. All right. Let's just round it down to 24,000 to make the math easy, because they say that there's 24 hours in a day. Well, if the world is roughly 24,000 miles in circumference, and we rotate once a day, the math is easy. It means you're traveling 1,000 miles an hour of linear speed at the equator. Fairly simple. Let's move on. Most people don't live on the equator, however, so we can say that the average human is consistently traveling at roughly 930 miles an hour. So they just averaged it out. They probably said, okay, here's where most people live, the most densely, most geographically dense areas, and they said it. So most people are spinning at 930 miles an hour. It's pretty fast. When you add that up over a roughly 80-year lifespan, each person travels around 600 million miles in their lifetime. So, just due to the spinning of the Earth, the average human is traveling 930 miles an hour at all time, whether you're waking, sleeping. Hey, even a trapeze artist, even a high wire artist, even a field goal kicker, even an Olympic gymnast who can land complex gymnastic moves with amazing precision. Even Nadia Comaneci, I think that was her name, who got the perfect 10 in women's gymnastics. Even she was spinning an average of 930 miles an hour when she made that perfect landing time after time after time again. Even that sniper who can hit a target in amazing distances, he was traveling at 930 miles an hour, and so was that bullet. All of it. Even the railgun that can hit a target, line of sight 100 miles away, which is interesting, because where's curvature if you can hit a target line of sight 100 miles away? But even that railgun itself and its projectile that traveled 100 miles line of sight, all were spinning at 930 miles an hour. But anyway, I digress, because when you calculate that 930 miles per hour speed over an average 80-year lifespan, you've traveled 600 million miles. But wait, I'm just beginning there, because that's just a drop in a bucket compared to the entire distance we travel in totality. Well, let's continue. That's a tremendous leap above the travel we do on Earth's surface. But we're just getting warmed up. Like I said, in addition to rotating, Earth orbits the sun. That orbit is an ellipse, which causes our planet to occasionally move more quickly or slowly, depending on its distance from the sun. Let's pause there. Let me just point something out for everybody. I don't know. Maybe there is some people here who could still think. I don't know. Because it says that the orbit that Earth is doing around the sun is an elliptical orbit. It says it right here, which causes our planet to occasionally move more quickly or more slowly. Well, that's interesting, because I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people say, well, Z, it's all relative, because you wouldn't feel the orbit because it's an orbit. It's circular. It's uniform. Well, apparently that's not true, because it's telling me it's an ellipse, and it's even telling me, black and white right in front of me, that because it's an ellipse, that the planet occasionally moves more quickly and slowly. Well, let me ask you, if an object can move either more quickly or more slowly, doesn't that imply something called acceleration and deceleration? Well, let me ask you guys, what happens to that argument about relativity and a constant speed? What happens to that argument? Everyone says, oh, Z, if you're in a plane traveling, you can't feel it moving. What about when you're in a car going down a highway? You can't feel it moving. Well, that's true. But when the car's accelerating, you certainly feel its movement. And when it's decelerating, it's the same thing. But how come, if indeed the Earth in its orbit around the sun, if it's accelerating and decelerating, begs the question, why don't we feel it? I don't know, guys. I mean, sometimes, I don't know, like I ask certain questions that seem simple, but I don't know, maybe it's just such a complex question that me, like and you, just we're not intelligent enough to answer that question. So we need Einstein and super smart, really smart guys with really small hats, to answer these questions for us. Anyway, let's continue. But on average, Earth's orbital speed is 19 miles per second. Well, now you know how fast we're traveling, guys. So in addition to the 930 mile an hour linear speed that most of us are traveling, we have this 19 miles per second. That's much faster. That's the speed we're orbiting around the sun. Let's continue. That's about 600 million miles every year. Oh, that's a lot. So, over a lifetime, each of us travels roughly 50 billion miles, which again dwarfs the distance we travel due solely to the rotation of our planet. So now these numbers are really starting to add up. But guess what, guys? That's not even the beginning of it. Let's continue. But Earth is not the only object in motion in the universe. The sun travels in a long, lazy orbit around the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Wow. So not only are we spinning, by the way, guys, if you're traveling 930 miles an hour, just in apparently linear speed due to the Earth's rotation, you guys know that's faster than the speed of sound, right? That's pretty fucking fast. And that's just the rotation. Once you add in the much quicker orbital speed, now we're getting crazy numbers. But now we have the speed of the solar system, basically our sun, traveling in its quote-unquote lazy orbit around the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Wow, let's continue. One of these galactic years takes roughly 230 million Earth years to complete. To put that in perspective, life first arose on Earth around 17 galactic years ago. And in only 25 more galactic years, the sun will die. Oh, well, it's good you guys know that. Hey, guys, you guys got to remember how Star Wars? People think Star Wars took place in the future. No, guys. Star Wars took place in the past. Remember, in a galaxy far away a long, long time ago, or however the beginning of Star Wars goes? So, because they know that, of course. I wonder who came up with this theory. I don't know. Anyway, let me continue. Was it George Lucas? Is this the George Lucas theory? A long time ago in a galaxy far away? Because we know, apparently, that that it takes roughly 230 million Earth years to complete one of these galactic cycles, these galactic years. And that life first arose 17 galactic years ago. Let's continue. Compared with these enormous galactic scales, a human lifetime is barely perceptible. Right, guys? Because you're really nothing. You're just a speck of dust in the blink of an eye in the cosmic order. You're really just kind of nothing. You're not like a child of God. This place wasn't created for you. You're not important. Your consciousness is certainly not co-creating this reality. Nope, it's none of those things. You're insignificant. Think about it, guys. Like the first amoeba that you apparently evolved from through macroevolution and abiogenesis occurred 17 galactic years ago. Wow, which is basically 230 million years times 17. That's a long time ago, guys. You're basically nothing. Let's continue. Compared to these enormous galactic scales, the human lifetime is barely perceptible, with the sun barely inching along its orbit. But on a human scale, it's almost incomprehensible due to the motion of the sun orbiting the center of the Milky Way. Each of us will travel around 370 million miles in our lifetime. And it doesn't stop there. Guys, you thought it stopped there, but it doesn't. Our entire galaxy is in motion too. All galaxies are, on average, flying away from each other, which is weird because how are the galaxies flying away from each other when the state of energy moves towards entropy? Isn't that the second law of thermodynamics, state of entropy? So how are the galaxies expanding away from each other? Shouldn't they be in entropy? Because after they all blasted in the Big Bang, it was the consolidation of the universe that caused, the planets to form, all the different suns, which we call stars, to form, and the different solar systems and the moon. That happens in a state of consolidation. But how are they all moving away from each other? I don't know, whatever. Let's just do what science is trying to do. Just claim that there's dark matter, which apparently accounts for 96% of all matter and dark energy. Or we'll do their new little thing they're trying to say where, no, well, it's really not that. It's more holographic. Or the other trick that I uncovered the other day where they're going to try to tell us there's a fifth state of nature that's undefined yet, or a fifth force of nature beyond supposed gravity, the weak and strong nuclear forces, electromagnetism. So which is it, guys? Is there a new force of nature? Is it dark matter? Is it dark energy? Okay, I'm digressing. I'm taking this very simple article and I'm making it a little too complex. Let's continue. On top of that expansion, each galaxy has some motion of its own, something astronomers dub peculiar velocity. For example, the Milky Way is on a collision course with our nearest neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. The mutual gravitational attraction is enough to overwhelm the general expansion of the universe. And in about 5 billion years, these galaxies will begin to merge. Wow, imagine the black hole and eventual supernova that'll come out of that. Ooh. On top of that, both the Milky Way and the Andromeda are headed toward the Virgo cluster, a massive cluster of galaxies about 65 million light years away. Beyond that, the Virgo cluster and surrounding galaxies are all headed toward the Great Attractor, which is the center of the supercluster called Laniakea. You see how they're trying to slip in so much propaganda in this one article? It's almost like difficult to even comprehend. Let's continue. Astronomers can calculate the combined motion of these gravitational influences by observing the cosmic microwave background, the CMB, which is composed of radiation released when the universe cooled from its plasma state when it was only 380,000 years old. It completely soaks the universe and is the same and is the same to 1 part in a million across the entire sky. Wow, it's a bunch of gobbledygook bullshit. Any motion in the universe will be visible in the CMB, which again is the cosmic microwave background. Light in the direction we're headed in will Doppel shift to higher frequencies. That's called the blue shift. And light in the direction we're moving away from will be shifted to the lower frequencies. That's the red shift. That's the classic red shift, blue shift that they use to define the motion of all these celestial bodies. It's completely bullshit, guys. If you know anything about interpolation, if you know anything about logical leaps, if you know anything about any of these things, you can understand that. It's unbelievable. Remember we learned a new word here on Z Show called apophenia, guys? Apophenia. The tendency to make meaningful connections with meaningless events. Yeah, let's keep going. By measuring the shift, astronomers can calculate our total velocity through the universe, and those measurements give a number of around 390 miles per second. And here we go. This is the very end of the article, so let's get to the money shot, everybody. When you add it all up over an 80-year lifespan, here it comes, guys. It gives you a total movement of 930 billion miles. Even if you never leave your home, you still will travel that enormous distance. That's quite an accomplishment. Congratulations, everybody who lived to 80. If you've made it to 80, you've traveled 930 billion miles. What an accomplishment. And, you know, like I said, I tend to ask questions. So the question that comes to mind is this. If we're traveling in all these vectors, this rotational vector, this orbital vector around the sun, this larger orbital vector with our sun orbiting the Milky Way galaxy, and then this final vector apparently with the Milky Way galaxy indeed moving itself towards and away all these other galaxies. That's 4 vectors. But this is the question I ask. How, with all that movement, has the sky and the stars not changed in all recorded history? How do we have things called constellations, which are constant relative to each other? The stars don't move. There's no parallax. I don't know. That's interesting to me, guys. With all that incredible movement, incredible speeds. Oh, wait, I forgot. What's Google going to tell me? The stars are just so far away that they never move. Right. And if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn.